Ja. Da vi jo klare egentlig, så kan vi jo starte. Skal jeg huske på å skru på lydopptak her. Det mulig noen gikk ut for å kanskje kjøpe noe å drikke eller sånt, så vi kan jo kanskje vente 30 sekunder. Men I'm just gonna quickly say something in Norwegian. På vegne av denne ettersamtalen så kan jo jeg også ønske velkommen til dere og til våre gjester. Mitt navn Karsten Meinik. Jeg redaktør for det norske filmtidsskriftet Montage, nettbasert filmtidsskrift. Jeg driver også podcasten Filmfrelst, pluss at jeg jobber som filmklipper ved siden av. Og jeg skal si resten på engelsk, tenker jeg, men jeg tenker det var greit å bare ønske velkommen til dette. Denne samtalen planlagt for å være et dypdykk i denne filmen dere har sett, med noen tråder tilbake til øvrige filmer de har laget, men også med åpning for spørsmål. Så jeg tenker at hvis noen av dere ønsker dere merker det, da sier jeg fra, og så tenker jeg at vi kan ta litt sånn spørsmål jevnlig underveis, hvis det mange som lurer på noe. Men da kan vi vel bare starte. Guys ready? Yeah? Okay, so we move to English, and I just repeat again, very much welcome and thanks for coming to Oslo to both of you guys, Bêka and Lemoine. We are really happy that you've come here to Oslo to present your film and talk with us about this project and your filmography in general. And I just said in Norwegian to the audience that my background is as a film editor and as the editor of a magazine focusing on films. And I think some of the conversation in preparation for this was that, you know, this screening takes part in the culture and the milieu of the architecture scene in Norway and Oslo. And not being a representative of the most nerdy architectural people, I take the job of being a bridge between the conversation about cinema, images, and architecture. And of course, I'm an amateur. I'm interested in an amateurish way in architecture. Having said that, we've all watched your film, Tokyo Ride. So even though we're putting main focus on that, I think on behalf of the part of the audience that might want to get to know you a little better, we should learn a little bit about where you come from as filmmakers. So, Ila, I know that you made a first experimental film that was screened in the Locarno Film Festival. And that is the starting point for your journey as a filmmaker, but also your journey together. Could you tell us a little bit about how it all started for you as a filmmaker and how you met?
Yes. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting us here. We're so happy coming in Oslo. And thank you to the festival, to the Architecture Association, and all of beautiful people coming to watch this film.
On a sunny day.
On a sunny day,
Yeah.
So we are going very fast, so you can go outside to have some sun. And hope to not to be too boring. So we'll try my best. I'm an architect. I study architecture in the school of in Venice and in Paris. But I dreamt about making films also because I was interested in cinema. And my idea of cinema was the big films that you can see in the best film festival in the world, like Venice, Cannes, and Berlin, that you know very well because I know you go there very often. So I was dreaming about making these kind of films. But as an architect, I was working as an architect and still making some short films. And one day I just had some prizes with some money to put in my first feature films that I produced myself, because I didn't know anything about the film production. So one day I decided to make these feature films, and at that moment I met Louise, and I felt totally in love as I am now. And so we started to talk about this film that I was making myself. And one day we were taken at the Locarno Film Festival, so we went there together. And going in that place, we started talking about also architecture, because Louise was very interested in architecture. And so showing this very experimental film in Locarno, we started to talk about what is a film about architecture. and was a very complicated question. But we started to talk about more than architecture. What is a space? Because having studied architecture, I always find very strange that in all the architectural representation in magazine, in photographs, and everywhere in films, also you study for 5-6 years in Italy, much more, but you study how to make a beautiful a good building for people. And when you watch all the representation of the architecture, there's no people in the representation. So we found that I always found that during my study was so strange, this incoherence, this thing. So we started talking about maybe we can add a new layer of to the representation of architecture, simply putting people inside. When we started talking about this, we said, yeah, but okay, what is interesting is not just watching people inside the space, is understanding what is the experience of the that when you are inside the space, what kind of experience can you have by a space? Because the space is so powerful. It's like, for me, that this relation related to some other arts, like for example music. For me, it's so strong. The music can change totally your state of mind or your behavior also. And thinking about architecture as a creation of space, the space is incredibly powerful to change also your behavior. So we wanted to work on this, and so we started talking about this, and we had a very big problem thinking about how can we share an experience about a space, and also what kind of experience, because it's a totally different experience if you put an architectural critic in a space or a guy that is working in that space. They have a totally different experience. So the experience of architecture of a space is totally personal. It's totally related to the person that is inside. So just to go very fast, we wanted to talk about to share an experience of someone that is working in a space, so that knows very well that space, but not in a intellectual way, but really physical. So we wanted to just to break about all the laws about the representation of architecture, and break showing an experience of a body inside the space. And we had the possibility to make a film in this incredible house made by Rem Koolhaas in Bordeaux. The house in Bordeaux is called House in Bordeaux, and we had the possibility to stay there for a while. And so when we met, I met the lady that was the housekeeper of the house, and watching her just cleaning the house all the whole day, we said, yeah, maybe this is very interesting to follow with her to understand how the space of this house is related to her body. And so we made this film. The first film we made is just, it was an experience like this. Just stay with them, but it was meant just to make a film for us, just to understand better what can we do for this new kind of representation. And just I'm talking about the beginning of our making films, and we were totally surprised that with this film was very there were a lot of people interested in this film. And this film was screened in several places, but one day it was has been selected at the Biennale in Venice. And they gave us a room in the central pavilion, so we were totally surprised to see our little films in the central pavilion. And it was an incredible success of people going, the queuing to go and to see this film. So we understood that we were not only the only one to want to see something different in the representation of the space architecture, but there were a lot of people. So we started to think about making other films on the same. I talk too much, maybe.
No. I listen.
But I can start
sentence
of my life when I was born, if you want.
No, but it's interesting.
We have time now because it's raining outside.
He told me that for the podcast he will edit, so you will be cut. He will keep
So
just one word.
The podcast is starting now, no?
Yes.
That's right.
What I was going to say was that, I didn't want to interrupt because I feel like these sentences are essential for the premise of this conversation, which I thought I was going to say something about, but now it's perfect that you said it. The origins of your filmmaking career as a duo has all these questions connected to it. And I feel like, well, when I replied to the festival's communication to me in terms of this conversation, I said, well, even though I can't bring that much architectural expertise myself, I do think a lot about the bridge between film and cinema as an art form and how these images are connecting us to people, characters, themes, whatever filmmakers decide to make something about. And when I see films, so-called architectural films, I do think a lot about that the conventions of that genre, if we'll call it a subgenre, can often be the fact that a camera can glorify a building or a place, a space, to the point where the camera is placed where no people would observe it from, or the lens and the nature of the image removes us from the reality of the building or the space. So I was thinking, well, let's see if we can also discuss what an architectural film is and if that term is useful at all. And the whole nature of your filmmaking discusses this. So that's a good starting point. And Louise, we have to bring you into this conversation as well. Like, so you meet this guy and you hear about his film and you go to Locarno and you have this starting point of your career and you start making a film together. Could you also comment a little bit about that origin project before we move faster to this film that we've seen today? The film in
yeah. Or maybe I can follow a little bit on what you said about architecture film, because it's something that it's always very tricky for us to define what we do and where to place ourselves. We are obsessed, every one of us is obsessed by defining things. Now we need always to find your case and see where you are placed in somewhere, in a genre, in a field, in a discipline, etc. And from the start with Ida, we thought of finding interest and richness in the in-betweens. I actually was making a research at university when we met on the question of interstices, these little in-between spaces. And
say the truth. She was writing the text about me.
No, I was actually it was the start of my PhD.
I was between Godard and Carmelo Bene.
No, I added you afterwards.
She was totally in love because
yes, that's I found a little interstice. I found a little space for him after we get in love, and I added him right away. Yes, between Godard and Carmelo Bene. But this was just a love story.
Who is this Bêka? I know Godard and Carmelo Bene, but who is
when
it?
I defended my work, they said, who's this unknown guy? We really want to know what's this work
It's all
about.
connected anyway to this.
This was very funny. And now that we are...
It went very bad this work.
We fought a lot with my research director, and at the end, she's a quite famous... figure of the avant-garde cinema in Paris, but anyway, so we left that world and started to make our things in a very do-it-yourself spirit, being producer, also becoming publisher, and then. But maybe the question of how do you define that strange genre, because all the times we are a bit in difficulty and saying, oh yes, we make films. It's a little bit about documentary because we film real life, but it's about architecture, but it's not exactly what we call an architecture film. That we take so much part in juries about architecture films, and each time we watch all these films, which are like super well produced, very well done, but like more of a TV language, let's say, or films that are well made and that you learn something from, normal documentaries. And at the end we say, oh yeah, but in our films you don't learn anything, and you it's like very shaky, so each time we say, probably we don't fit really in that kind of category. But that's why we have over the years really defined the idea that what we are looking for is not really to add information. We are not looking for information. You probably all know about Ryu Nishizawa as an architect, or the duo Sana. You know their work through magazines, and probably you visited some buildings, etc. All this is known, is written. It has made history. But what we can bring is maybe just a little additional layer of understanding and of proximity. We thought, because we were staying in Japan for a while, and we thought that probably what was interesting to add regarding Sana's work was to discover the human side of their work, because their work is very much represented, but in a very controlled, minimal way, extremely aesthetical, in an aesthetical approach. But we never get to know who is Nishizawa and Sejima. And so we said, okay, let's do something they would never produce themselves about their work and themselves, which is adding this human portrait, and that's why we made that choice. Is to go against all their will of control, and to play on total improvisation also, and so you understand at the start of the film that Nishizawa didn't really know that we were to do a film, but the principle was to spend a day together, and so the film really builds itself during the day, and with all the constraints and the various elements that stop the trip and are against this hard development of an itinerary that doesn't really know where to go. And so this is a little bit the idea we've been following over the years, is to make films that are the result of an experience, as Ila said, an experience of a space, or an experience of a relationship through principles of improvisation, in order to keep as really leading values the one of giving back an idea of what was really happening at that moment, in terms of emotion, but also in terms of all the unexpected events that life brings up all the time.
I find it very interesting, and it's a perfect move into the film that we've seen today. And it's just a short anecdote about my role today. We met this morning, and this is the conventional architectural film that we are sitting here and talking and being in front of an audience. But, to get to know you guys, the feeling of seeing you with your kids in Oslo, enjoying a cup of coffee, small talk before we go inside. It's what you do with your films, that you, instead of sitting down like this, your films are about, those two kids and how they color your life, and how it is for two filmmakers to establish this weird balance between family energies and being a professional. And what is such a generous gift about Tokyo Ride is that you include us through using that kind of anthropological style of cinema that just takes us into the moment, and you're not introducing us with a lot of information, instead of becoming an encyclopedic film, which has its own importance. If you can find a film that has all the information you need about the subject, it's perfect. If you do a school assignment, you find the film, watch it the night before, you're prepared. But instead, this film is what an encyclopedic person in the future could look to actual evidence and empirical recordings of something that was not part of the encyclopedia from before, which is, I think it's the nicest thing I can say to you guys, because I love the film, but I do feel that this part is wholly original to the meeting between the so-called architectural film and, film. Because in the end, it shouldn't necessarily be down to these genres, but it is a film, and it brings us into a life. I've never been to Tokyo, for example, so would I spend a whole day in Tokyo, probably a very expensive day, inside a car with an architect? Probably not. Now it feels like the best way to go through Tokyo. And I want to bring up a scene from the film just to kind of ask you about a moment, because I do feel that some of the quality here is also in the moments, in the small interstitial parts of a film. And because I work as an editor myself, I get very detailed when I watch a film. And the moment when he fills gas, it feels like somehow it feels like the DNA of this whole style. And at some moment there, you turn your camera up because the gasoline pump is in the actual ceiling of the... I've never seen this before. Have you seen it before? This is also being a film about architectural spaces, how functions are thought about different from place to place. And this is his life, not his architecture, but the way he interacts with life. I think this is such a beautiful moment. And so while you're shooting this day in Tokyo with him, and while you're editing and thinking about a moment like this, is that an example of what you kind of are looking for and hoping that happens through being there and kind of being improvisational? Or is it just me over analyzing?
No, I think we have the same attitude of watching the Japan, for example, in this case, that also we are like you, so we are curious about it. But if you talk to Japanese people, they say, what is this? Is not an interesting detail. But as we were in Japan at that moment, yeah, we were very interested about how they put gasoline in the car. So
and that's practical, but it also liberates the whole floor of the space. Like they can drive anywhere. They don't.
It's very intelligent. It's very intelligent system. Yeah. I thought the same. I said, why we don't do that in Europe? But sure. We are really interested in what we see all the time, and also. Yeah, improvising, because we just spend a time with them, and so watching everywhere, and so. But there's a lot of things like this. Also, when we go up on the soba shop on the restaurant, watching how they do soba with this extremely heavy machine just on top. So there's a lot of things like this. But I think it's what Luis was saying about the improvisation is very important for us, because from the beginning we wanted to make a film that respect the place as it is, and not as we see all the time in films and photos, that is as a place that is prepared for the photo. So if you watch in all the magazine, architecture magazine, all the places that you see in the photograph have been prepared by someone and say stage. So we'll keep add to this one. Normally you don't take this. If you want to make a photograph of us, you say, oh, wait a second. Okay, like this, or take a photo of this. Yeah. But if you want to take a photograph in the real life, this object is there. So. Yeah. So we wanted to respect the space how it is it. And so with the chaos, with the dirty, with the rain. For example, you never see rain in a film about architecture, because if it's raining, you'll see you tomorrow, and we will have a good light. And also in cinema, you never film during the day. You just wait the golden hour at the end of the day, so you have a beautiful light. And but the life is not always in that moment, no. So not always happen. But about this, we always think with Luis. We talk about we call it the drone syndrome. They say the drone syndrome that many architects they have. It's making film with a drone. No, that's one fantastic drone to make films, because a drone is like the view of. I'm sure there's a lot of architects here, so don't. But I would say gently, but the architect, because I'm an architect. So, but we architects, we love we love a lot the drone, because we also, when making a drawing, we are like a demiurge. No, we control everything from high, and so from the sky. So we see that, and all a lot of architecture, although for the cities, have been drawn like this. Is just thinking about the totality, the complex. No, so the architects they think like this. They think about having a total control of the building, of the city, the total control. And when we started to make film, we wanted to make the opposite, just to say that there's also another way to see things. And another way is just going back with the drone and going at the same level of the people, and watch people in the eyes, at the of the height of the eyes, and not from above, but just from the same level. And this is something very, is an exercise, very difficult exercise for architects, to put yourself on the same level of the people that they have to use your space. They will say, we will say that we always do this, but we don't think about this. Or at least during my studies, no one teacher told me that I have to be like a person. I just start making a drawing with the plan. No, so the plan is from above. Also, some perspective also use. There's something that Ryu Nishizawa says that is very interesting, is that they never use perspective in their projects, because a perspective is it's a way to control the space that is too authoritarian. So they don't use perspective to explain. So this is also interesting, because we use the tools we have for as an architect. Is that there are tools that maybe are not the best to create a good place. In the cinema, for example, we wanted to bring cinema in the field of architecture, because in the cinema there's almost much more in the documentary, for example. You have to be in the same level of the others, and you have to be inside the event. You don't see it. There's a lot of documentary that they watch things happening from outside, but from the beginning we wanted to stay inside. And like in the car, we are in the car. You feel our presence, because because the event is changed also by our presence. So
yes.
We decided, not only in this film but all the films, to film with a wide angle, technically, for example, because you are obliged to go very close to the people, because you can make a film with a very big lens and stay 20 meters and watching everything, spine. But if you have a wide angle, you can do it. You have to go there. And so when you are close to the people, there's a high contact, and this is totally different, no? And we have all the time high contact in a space. When even here, no, even when you go out, you say, I'm sorry. There's all time this relation with the other bodies, and the relation with the other bodies in a space is so important, because I can think to alone in my house to create this space. But after that, I will never think what is happening in this door. When I will I will have a lot of eye contact with the people. So I'm not saying that this is the best way to do things, but there's just a new, as Louis say, a new layer we can bring to understand better how we can design spaces.
And this question of perspective, it's so central also to all kinds of discussions in regards to cinema in itself, because of controlling the camera. As Godard said, even documentaries, it's lies 24 times a second anyway, because you are making a cut, you leave something out, making a frame, you leave something out, and in a way you can only represent the truth that you are representing, and you have to be honest about that perspective. And it's interesting with drones, I just always think about it, it's you are always fooled to feel that, oh, now I'm watching something from an incredible angle. This is real in its own way. Well, it's bird realism. It's not only bird perspective. It's the only, the audience would be really happy if they were all birds, and they would say, well, that's how a Bjørvika looks like when I fly by. But the truth is that, of course, the perspective that you, as subjective participants to this particular moment, you are honest about, entering the car, telling, is it okay I turn on my camera? All these elements could easily be removed in editing to make a cleaner film, including the ending, when you set the whole stage and you include this part. That whole, I would say, honesty as filmmakers, combined with his openness as a character. And I know he's very famous, but at the same time, using only the film as an example, he's a very generous, open human being that just levels with you guys. He loves his car. And here we go. And then suddenly you have this premise for a film that works within its own limitations, that it becomes, the film itself sets up a space, saying from this day, morning till evening, we'll spend time with him, and that's the film. And Louise, you are in the backseat in the film, and that's its own perspective, but we never see the camera from that point. Like, how little time did you have to kind of did you set up anything of this film at all? And could you talk a little bit about this element of perspective from your point of view?
Yeah, it's a funny detail because I don't know if there are many feminists in this room, but I don't like so much being in the back seat, and Sejima-san didn't like that much neither.
I was actually thinking the thought when I was watching the film. I was thinking, but then the move kind of moves on.
But there is a technical explanation I will give right away, because for the camera it was much better to be in the front seat, and so we had to right away to decide this. Techniques first in this case, and but each time we go to the and above all in the US, where question of gender is so oppressive, and we are a bit ashamed by this setting. But it's very interesting because when we were discussing this film with Nishizawa, first he's in love with cars. He speaks about various approaches from Germany to Italian cars, and he has I think 3 vintage cars. But he chose this one for one particular reason, and that's very interesting to see how he enters so much in detail. He's a very sensitive person to, obviously, spatial issues, but in very minute details. He chose this car because the scale of the car would enable to create the condition for opening the discussion to intimacy, because we would be so close and so physically so close that it was the perfect setting for at least to make something happen in this span of how many hours was that? 10 hours. He changes shirt 3 times in the film, but it really has been shot in one day. I just precise, because sometimes we have like very attentive spectators which say, but I see the shirt. It's not the same.
But it is raining in the first part of the film, so it's you're excused if you needed to change some clothes. I guess you get the most of the rain in the backseat.
I did.
So it's not only the backseat and the gender part, but it's also the rain. So you suffered. Suffered for the art.
Terrible place I had, but I think this is really important what you pointed out regarding honesty. This is this was something we really developed over the years from the first film. We really wanted to introduce a notion of a realism in some ways in our approach to representation. And as Ila said, we were really wanted to fight this tendency of idealizing reality that the architecture representation globally was aiming for. We were so in such a misunderstanding of why should we all accept lies, or why should we represent our surrounding world in such an artificial way. And so that's why we very quite brutally in the first film we really underline the question of imperfections, because it was a heavy subject in that house, the question of leaks, etc. But we really wanted to open up the debate about being closer to how imperfect and control our life and our built environment is, and so to be more honest. And so this question of honesty, then it became really a methodology in the way we also prepare films, because we really don't go through the classical step of script writing. And as we are our own producers, we don't really go through all these administrative steps also, which also condition so much the language of cinema and impose certain this rigor of the script writing, etc. And this idea of control over what you aim for in a film, and how the film is constructed in its narration. etc. And so we really wanted to give up with all these rules and saying that that's why also we reinvest, let's say, the genre of the road movie in this one, more as a challenge in saying, okay, we know at which time we will start the trip, and more or less, let's say, with what time will end, even if it was very much based on how tired he would be during the day. But we don't know where we will go, we don't know what will happen, and we don't know if we'll get along well. And I don't know if you noticed, but at the beginning it's a bit difficult, and there is not much in the very first minutes of not much is getting out, and we are a bit strangers, and then comes a little bit of softness and humor, and so this it's the question, it's the magic of human relationship, how you build up a human relationship, what are the ingredients, how will you create a certain harmonious state, or on the contrary, how it will remain like super difficult. But he was really, really generous. That's true.
I know that time-wise we have to wrap things up now, and I guess I just want to conclude by saying that we are really, really happy that you were taking the time to come to Oslo and talk with us about your films. I repeat again that their films are available from the website, and we really hope that you want to return here again and bring a new film or a retrospective or whatever to see on the big screen. And we're going to hang out a little bit in the cafe, so if someone felt a little bit too shy to ask a question, I'm sure there's a small opportunity coming following the screenings. And let's just give them a warm hand at the end, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.